There's a white powder sitting in your pantry right now that costs about 4 cents per tablespoon, and mixed with tap water, it forms a seal tight enough to hold back a pressurized pipe leak for weeks, long enough for every homeowner in America to avoid the 2 a.m. emergency plumber bill. Not a permanent fix, an emergency hold. The kind of hold that buys you time until Monday morning when a real repair costs a fraction of what a weekend panic call would have cost. This isn't a hack. It isn't a trick. It's a recipe from 1893 that every tenement plumber in the Northeast knew by heart. And somewhere between then and now, it got quietly erased from the way we think about home repair. Last February, a family in suburban Cleveland paid $847 for a 41-minute plumber visit on a Saturday night. And the actual leak had already stopped spraying 20 minutes before he rang the doorbell, because the wife had done something her grandmother taught her when she was 9 years old. $847 for 41 minutes of labor on a leak that had already been contained with ingredients that together cost less than a postage stamp. That's the math that made me go looking. Emergency plumbing in the United States is a $124 billion industry, and a disproportionate slice of that revenue comes from after-hour service calls where homeowners, panicked by water spraying across a basement floor, will agree to any price to make it stop. The industry knows this. The pricing reflects it. Standard weekday visit, $150. Saturday night, same leak, 4 to 6 times that. Sunday before a holiday, whatever they feel like charging. And here's what nobody in that industry has any incentive to tell you. There has always been a stopgap, a simple, honest, temporary seal that holds pressurized water long enough for you to wait until Monday morning and call someone at standard rates. But a homeowner who knows how to buy themselves 48 hours is a homeowner who doesn't pay emergency premiums. So that knowledge, which used to pass from parent to child as basic domestic literacy, stopped passing. Not through any conspiracy, through something much more ordinary. Plumbing stopped being something you learned at home around 1960, when post-war prosperity made service calls affordable and home economics classes quietly dropped pipe repair from the curriculum. The recipe didn't get banned. It didn't get suppressed. It just stopped being handed down. And an industry grew up in the gap where that knowledge used to live. In the spring of 1893, a Boston pipe fitter named Aldrich Mellon finished his apprenticeship under a gas lamp-era plumber named Patrick Doyle, and on the last page of the leather notebook Doyle handed him was a recipe, a paste made from 2 ingredients used to hold leaking copper joints through entire New England winters in tenements where landlords refused to call repairmen. That notebook ended up in the Boston Public Library archives. In 1971, donated by Mellon's granddaughter, and the recipe on the last page reads, in Doyle's careful handwriting, corn flour and water, thick as cold porridge, pack round the seep, bind with cloth, holds till thaw. That's it. That's the entire instruction. And for 50 years of brutal Boston winters, it kept water running in buildings where the alternative was frozen pipes bursting in January. Doyle wasn't the first to use it. Trace it back, and you find variations of the same technique in London by the 1840s, in Philadelphia by the 1860s, in Chicago tenement manuals published in 1889. The same core idea. Starch, suspended in water, packed against a weeping joint, holds. The Victorian plumbing trade called it paste packing, and apprentices learned it in their first month because emergency calls in an era before telephones meant a tenant family could be flooded by sunrise if the journeyman plumber couldn't be reached. The knowledge survived until roughly the Korean War. You can still find it in home repair encyclopedias published through about 1954. There's a Reader's Digest household manual from 1951 that lists cornstarch paste as the standard emergency measure for a weeping copper fitting. By the 1960 edition of the same book, it's gone, replaced by a phone number for your local plumber and a note about the importance of proper professional repair. That's the whole handoff. One generation had it, the next generation had a phone. And the generation after that had the plumber's cell number and an $800 Saturday bill. And the wild part, the part I didn't expect when I started digging through these old manuals, is that the technique works for exactly the same reason it worked in 1893. The chemistry didn't change, copper pipes didn't change, water pressure in residential lines is roughly the same as it was 130 years ago. What changed was the cultural memory. Here's the part that sounds impossible until the chemistry clicks. Cornstarch suspended in water behaves like a liquid when you stir it gently, and like a solid, the instant pressure strikes it. Scientists have a name for this. It's called a non-Newtonian fluid, specifically a shear thickening suspension, and the informal term for cornstarch water specifically is oobleck. Kids do it in science class. The demonstration is always the same. You can sink your finger into the bowl slowly, but if you slap the surface, your hand bounces off something that feels like wet cement. That's the entire principle at work inside a leaking pipe joint. Stick with me here, because this is where it actually starts to make sense. A pressurized water leak isn't a steady flow. At the microscopic level of a pinhole or a weeping joint, it's a series of rapid pulses, water forcing its way through an opening under roughly 40 to 60 pounds of pressure per square inch. Every pulse hits the cornstarch paste packed against the leak. And every pulse, because it's sudden and sharp, causes the starch molecules to lock together into a temporary solid. The paste goes rigid against the pressure, blocking the pulse. Then, between pulses, in the microseconds of relief, the starch molecules relax slightly, the paste stays put, and the next pulse hits the same solid wall. It's self-reinforcing. The harder the leak pushes, the firmer the paste becomes. This is not an analogy. This is the actual molecular behavior of amylose and amylopectin chains, the two long-chain carbohydrate molecules that make up cornstarch. When they're suspended in water and subjected to sudden force, compare that to what modern pipe repair actually uses. Epoxy putties, silicone-based sealants, rubber tape, all of these work by curing and by undergoing a chemical transformation over 15 minutes to 2 hours during, which they cannot be disturbed, cannot be wet, cannot be under pressure, which is exactly the opposite of the conditions you have at 2 in the morning with water spraying across your laundry room. Cornstarch paste doesn't cure. It doesn't need to. It's working from the moment it touches the joint. The pressure that's trying to force water out is the same pressure that's holding the seal in place. That's the elegance of it. That's why Doyle wrote "holds till thaw" in his notebook. In an unheated Boston tenement, the paste would stay against that joint for 3 or 4 months without drying out, because the joint itself stayed cold and damp. In a warm, dry, modern basement, you're not getting 3 months. You're getting 2 to 14 days, depending on humidity and the exact pressure in your lines. But that's the entire point. You don't need 3 months. You need to get through the weekend. And here's what nobody explains clearly about the modern alternatives. Most of the professional-grade pipe sealant products you see at the hardware store are also temporary. They're rated for 30 to 90 days. They cost $12 to $40. They require dry application on a drained pipe. Cornstarch and water works wet, works under pressure, works the moment you apply it, and costs roughly 11 cents for enough paste to seal every joint in an average house. So, what's the actual ratio? The one that holds under real pipe pressure instead, of just oozing off the joint in the first hour? Because this is where most internet versions of this trick fall apart. They tell you to make a paste and leave it at that, and a too thin paste slides off the leak, while a too thick paste cracks under the first pressure pulse. Both fail. The ratio that works, the one Patrick Doyle wrote down, and the one a modern rheology lab will tell you produces peak shear thickening behavior, is 2 parts cornstarch to 1 part water by volume. 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to 1 tablespoon of cold tap water. Not warm water, cold. Warm water starts breaking down the starch granules, which destroys the non-Newtonian effect. Room temperature is acceptable. Cold is better. You mix it in a small bowl with a spoon, slowly, until it reaches the consistency of thick peanut butter. When you lift the spoon out, the paste should fall in one slow drip, not run in a stream and not sit there like dough. That drip consistency is the sweet spot. Before you apply it, you need to do one thing and one thing only. Shut off the water supply to the leaking pipe, either at the local valve under the fixture or at the main coming into the house. This is non-negotiable. Not because the paste won't work against live pressure, it will, but because applying any seal to a spraying pipe is 10 times harder than applying it to a pipe that's been depressurized for 60 seconds. Shut the valve, let the residual pressure release through. Any open tap, then work on the dry joint. Dry the area with a rag. The joint doesn't need to be hospital clean, but standing water on the copper will dilute the paste on contact. A 10-second wipe is enough. Pack the paste directly onto the leak point with your fingers. Go thick. Doyle's notebook says thumb deep, and that's the right intuition. You want a mound of paste about 1/2 inch thick, covering the entire weep point and extending 1 inch in every direction around it. Press it firmly into the joint so it forms to the shape of the copper. Then bind it. This is the step everybody skips, and it's the step that actually makes the seal hold. Take a strip of cotton cloth. An old t-shirt works, dish towel works, anything non-synthetic, and wrap it around the paste-covered joint 3 to 4 times, snug but not tight. The cloth holds the paste in place during the first few hours while the starch fully hydrates and settles into position. Without the cloth binding, the paste can slump off the bottom of a horizontal pipe before it sets. Wait 15 minutes, and slowly, turn the water back on. Not full pressure. Crack the valve to about 1/4 open and let pressure build gradually for the first 2 minutes. Watch the binding. If you see water seeping through the cloth, shut the valve, wait 1 hour, and add a second layer of paste over the first. If the binding stays dry, open the valve to full. You're done. That seal will hold under normal residential water pressure for somewhere between 2 days and 3 weeks, depending on conditions. Longer if the leak is on a cold water line. Shorter if it's on a hot water supply, because warm water gradually breaks down the starch structure. The cost of everything I just described, assuming you already own cornstarch and a rag, $0. Assuming you buy cornstarch specifically for this, about $2.40 for a box that will seal roughly 300 leaks. The cost of the Saturday night plumber this paste buys you out of $400 to $900. One more thing, and this matters. This is an emergency stopgap. You still need to get a proper repair done. Call a plumber Monday morning at standard rates and have the joint properly soldered or replaced. The paste buys you time. It doesn't replace real plumbing. Anyone telling you to skip the permanent fix is setting you up for water damage that will cost 20 times what the emergency call would have. You now know something that roughly 90% of homeowners in this country do not. When water starts spraying from a joint at 2 in the morning and the on-call plumber quotes you $400 just to turn his ignition key, you have a 20-minute option sitting in your pantry. You can shut the valve, mix the paste, pack the joint, wrap the cloth, and go back to bed. That's not nothing. That's the difference between a controlled Monday morning service call at standard rates and a panicked Saturday night emergency at quadruple pricing. Over the course of owning a home, the difference is real money. Money that used to stay in households because the knowledge stayed in households. Test this before you need it. Seriously, get a box of cornstarch, mix a small batch this weekend, get a feel for the consistency. Practice the 2-to-1 ratio once so your hands know what it looks like. When you actually need this, you'll be standing in a wet basement at midnight with adrenaline running, and muscle memory matters more than trying. To read instructions off a phone screen while water sprays on the drywall. And talk about this. The single biggest reason this technique disappeared from American households between 1950 and 1970 is that it stopped getting passed down at the kitchen table. Your grandmother knew it. Her grandmother knew it. If you mention it to your kids, to your neighbor, to the friend who just bought their first house, you're the reason they'll know it too. That's the whole shift here. This isn't about cornstarch. It's about the slow erosion of basic domestic knowledge that used to be free and has been gradually replaced by service calls that aren't. The paste is just one example. There are dozens more like it. Techniques that used to live in every household and now live only in archived notebooks and library basements. If you want more of these recovered, the forgotten recipes, the pre-industrial fixes, the domestic knowledge that got quietly replaced by invoices, subscribe, and I'll keep pulling them out of the archives. And drop a comment if you've ever actually used this trick or watched a parent or grandparent use it. I want to know how long the seal held for you.